I'm a 29-year-old woman living in a mid-sized East Coast city. I work from home as a freelance graphic designer and split a small 2-bedroom bungalow with my boyfriend Leo, who I've been with for 5 years. We don't have kids, just a lazy tabby cat who thinks he owns the place. Life is quiet, predictable, and mostly good until family gets involved. My parents have always been obsessed with image. Not just how they look, but how the family looks. Growing up, there were never any outbursts at the dinner table, not because we were peaceful, but because everything ugly happened behind closed doors. My mom is the kind of person who irons napkins before guests come over. My dad is more reserved, more hands-off, which somehow makes everything worse. They act like everything is perfect, even when someone's crying in the bathroom. And my older sister, Deandra, she's the golden girl they built that illusion around. Deandra is 31. Pharmaceutical sales. Drives a white BMW she never stops polishing. Always in a blazer and heels, even for breakfast. She's loud in a way people mistake for confidence and cruel, in a way people excuse as honesty. Every family gathering becomes her stage. Her tone, her schedule, her version of events. My role in the family is somewhere between tech support and background filler. Every year, my parents organize a family portrait. It's become a tradition. Coordinated outfits, professional photographer, carefully picked location. A new frame goes up on the living room wall each holiday season, replacing the one from the year before. It's always curated down to the exact shade of beige or baby blue. Deandra practically runs the whole thing now. She picks the color scheme, plans the shoot, even drafts the outfit guidelines like it's a marketing campaign. This year's theme, coastal chic, creams, whites, and soft pastels. No logos. No busy prints. I actually tried this year. I found a muted lavender wrap dress that flattered my shape, worked with the color palette, and made me feel nice. For the first time in a long time, I didn't dread the family photo. I thought maybe if I looked the part, the rest would fall into place. A week before the shoot, Deandra made a group chat with me, our parents, and a couple of cousins. She sent a collage of Pinterest models posing in linen jumpsuits and flowing skirts. Then she started handing out suggestions like we were part of a company brand rollout. I should have seen it coming when she said, "Let's align on visual balance this year." A few minutes later, I got a separate message from her. "Just me and her. I know you've put on weight this year," she wrote. "I'm worried it'll throw off the photo symmetry. Maybe you sit this one out?" I stared at the screen for a solid minute. At first, I thought she was joking. Deandra has a weird sense of humor sometimes, dry, biting. But when I replied, "Are you serious?" she doubled down. "It's about proportions," she wrote. "I just want the picture to be clean. It's not personal." I didn't know what to say. I screenshotted the exchange and sent it to my parents. My dad didn't respond. My mom replied with, "Don't take it personally. Deandra's just trying to make it look cohesive." Like I was a rug that clashed with the sofa. Leo, my boyfriend, saw the messages and almost threw his phone. He told me I didn't have to go, that I shouldn't go, that this was the kind of thing you cut people off for. But something in me didn't want to give her that win. I wanted someone to see it and say it wasn't okay. "Not great." I tried calling Deandra. She picked up and laughed. "You're being dramatic," she said. "Everyone has a role to play in family photos. Yours is maybe candid background shots, not front row." I didn't say much after that. I sent one final message in the group chat. I said I wouldn't be attending and not to worry about me ruining their aesthetic. No one replied, except my cousin Izzy, who messaged me privately and asked if I was okay. I didn't answer her either. I stayed home the day of the shoot, watched Leo make pancakes while I sat on the couch in my new dress, tag still on. I didn't cry until later. It wasn't about the photo. Not really. It was about how normal it felt for everyone to be fine with me not being in it. Like I was always removable, replaceable. A decoration they could take or leave depending on the year's theme. Later that week, I was scrolling through my phone, trying to delete old screenshots, when I found something I hadn't seen in years. A blurry photo from 4 summers ago. Deandra, sitting in the backseat of a police cruiser, hair messy, makeup smeared, face flushed. The mugshot that followed showed up online the next day after she got pulled for a DUI. My parents handled the fallout quietly, paid the fees, and it disappeared from family memory like it never happened. But I remembered. And looking at that picture, how real it was, how unpolished and human, something clicked. That was the truth she worked so hard to bury under stage smiles and linen outfits. That was the version of her she never wanted anyone to see. And I suddenly knew exactly what I was going to do. The idea kept bouncing around in my head. Deandra's mugshot, messy hair, no makeup, eyes dull from crying, was the first time I'd ever seen her without armor. No filters, no posing, no polished script. Just her, caught in a moment she couldn't control. That photo said more about who she really was than any of our family portraits ever did. So I pulled out my sketch pad and started drawing. At first, I just wanted to see what it would look like if I reimagined the image in a mural style. Not cartoonish, not cruel, just raw, honest. A grayscale portrait, clean lines, stark expression. I imagined a splash of warm color behind her, maybe a gold or burnt orange, something that gave it drama without turning it into a joke. I worked on a few drafts in Procreate, layering the mugshot with some of her carefully curated headshots from social media. The contrast was striking. There's a muralist I follow on Instagram, someone local who does realism with just a hint of irony in his public art. His work always makes people stop and look twice. I sent him a message with one of the mock-ups and asked if he took private commissions. He said yes. We scheduled a call. We spoke for 10 minutes. I explained I wanted the piece in my garage, which I'd already half converted into a creative studio. He liked the concept, said it had emotional weight and subtle commentary. I asked for one condition: if anyone ever asked who commissioned it, he would keep my name out of it. He said that was standard practice for him. He even offered a simple confidentiality agreement, just to make it formal. We started planning. I sent him a high-res version of Deandra's mugshot, a couple of her most polished profile pictures, and one candid family photo from the year before, something to give him context on how she presents herself. He asked if I wanted it to be life-size or bigger. I said life-size. That felt right. He came over 2 days later with supplies, charcoal sticks, spray chalk, primer, and masking tape. The garage was clean, already half empty, with one long blank wall that used to hold a whiteboard. By the end of the first session, he had the outline of her face sketched up. Even just the structure, the cheekbones, the slant of her jaw, looked eerily accurate. 3 days into the project, my mom stopped by. She never texts before she shows up, just rings the bell and lets herself in like it's still her house. She brought a loaf of banana bread and a Tupperware of chicken soup, which she put straight into our fridge without asking. Then she saw the garage door was open. She stepped inside and froze, her eyes locked on the half-finished mural. The outline was filled in just enough to recognize who it was, and the soft background color, he'd chosen a rust orange tone, made it even more dramatic. She didn't say anything for a second, just stood there, holding the edge of the doorframe like she might fall over. Then she asked if it was Deandra. I said yes. She wanted to know if it was a joke. A bit. I told her it wasn't meant to be funny. She looked back at the painting again, then back at me, and asked what the point of it was. I told her it was a personal project. She said it was vindictive, that it would cause more harm than I understood, that our family already had too much tension lately. I reminded her that I was excluded from the family portrait to protect the visual balance. So maybe the family wasn't all that united to begin with. Then she told me to be careful. Not a threat exactly, more like one of those passive warnings she gives when she wants to sound protective and intimidating at the same time. She said Deandra had been under a lot of pressure lately, that she didn't need another reason to feel like she was being targeted. She left without taking the banana bread. A few hours later, my cousin Izzy sent me a text. It was a photo of her in front of the mural, flashing a thumbs up. She must have seen it through the garage window when she came by to drop something off next door. Her caption just said, "Artistic justice. I support it." By the end of the week, the mural was halfway done. It wasn't loud or grotesque, it almost had a classical feel, like a portrait you'd see in a gallery, except the subject had court-ordered eyes and an expression that made you look twice. The muralist was planning to add one more layer of detailing before sealing the surface. I asked if he could make the brush strokes faintly visible up close, to show the effort behind the piece. He nodded. I didn't plan to show it to anyone else. It was supposed to be just for me. A quiet reclaiming. But that plan didn't last long. Saturday morning, my phone lit up. Family group chat. The thread had been quiet since the portrait shoot, no follow-ups, no checking in. But now, at the top of the screen, was a new message. It was from Deandra. It read, "Can someone explain why there's a painting of my mugshot on the internet?" Apparently, someone had taken a photo of the mural and posted it online. I found out later that it was my mom who took the photo during her surprise visit and quietly shared it with a few people. From there, it somehow made its way onto a local forum. It wasn't viral, but it had made it to a few local art forums. The caption was vague, bold piece in an East Coast garage, but it didn't need much context. Her face was instantly recognizable. The group chat exploded after that. I didn't answer. I turned off notifications, closed the door to the garage, and kept working. Deandra didn't find the mural through social media first. She found it through our mother. Apparently, after my mom's unexpected drop-in to my garage, she printed out a photo of the mural and stuck it to the fridge at their house. She even wrote a caption on it, her version of being artsy. In fine tip pen across the bottom corner, "Truth and pigment." I guess it was supposed to be thoughtful. Poetic. But that's not how Deandra saw it. She stopped by for dinner and saw it hanging there while pouring herself a glass of sparkling water. She asked what it was, and my mother, in her usual vague way, told her it was from my latest project. It only took Deandra a second to realize it was her own face, taken from a mugshot photo she thought was long buried. She didn't ask questions. She grabbed her phone and walked outside. My phone started ringing before she was even out of the driveway. Call after call. Then the texts started pouring in, some short, some paragraph-length rants. She left voicemails too. I didn't open any of them until much later. When I finally played them back, it was everything I expected. "You are sick. You're obsessed with me. This is why you'll always be alone." I let them pile up. I didn't answer. I didn't reply. I didn't block her, but I also didn't give her anything back. Silence, for once, was mine to hold. That same night, my dad called me. He hasn't called me directly in over 6 months. Even when Deandra told me to stay out of the family portrait, he didn't say anything. But now, with her reputation feeling bruised, he decided to speak up. He told me I was humiliating the family. I asked him why it wasn't humiliating when Deandra drove drunk and got arrested, or when she told me to sit out of the portrait because my body didn't match the symmetry. He didn't have much to say after that. Instead of arguing more in private, I dropped the screenshots into the family group chat. The ones where she said I'd thrown off the photo symmetry. The one where she told me to sit it out. Then I closed the app and waited. No one responded for hours. Then a little notification popped up. Izzy liked the messages. Later, Izzy told me she went to brunch with a couple of our cousins that weekend. She brought up the mural, the messages, and how everything had gone down. They didn't say much, but apparently one gave a quiet nod, and another said, "She's not wrong." No one wanted to go against Deandra directly, but not everyone was behind her either. Over the next few weeks, the mural slowly started making quiet rounds online, first on a neighborhood art forum, then picked up by a local lifestyle blog that had featured the muralist's work before. They liked the composition, the emotional realism, and asked if he could put them in touch with the commissioner for an interview. He checked with me. I said no. This wasn't about a spotlight. Around the same time, my mom called again. She didn't yell. She didn't scold. Her voice was softer this time, a tone she usually saves for funerals and family illness. She told me I didn't realize how hurtful this had been. For Deandra, for her, for everyone. I told her she didn't realize how hurtful it was to be erased from a family picture like I didn't matter. That shut the call down pretty quickly. Leo, my boyfriend, said the mural wasn't really about revenge anymore. It was about voice. After years of being quiet in the background, I'd finally done something that people couldn't ignore, and they hated that it came from me. A few days later, Deandra messaged the muralist directly. She offered him money to paint over it, twice what I'd paid for the commission. He declined. The agreement was clear, signed and dated. He wasn't interested in deleting someone else's voice for cash. He even posted a story on his page that said, "We don't erase truth just because someone finds it uncomfortable." After that, things snowballed. A few other local artists started sharing the mural as part of a Raw Truth series. One added a self-portrait to the alley behind a coffee shop, featuring their own teenage mugshot. Another painted a visual timeline of their family's immigration story, complete with deportation notices and eviction letters. None of it was loud or political, just honest. I finally replied to Deandra. One message, no punctuation. Just the mural didn't ruin your image or behavior I didn't hear back. But 2 days later, I got a text from my mother. There's a family dinner next weekend at their house. I was invited. Not a birthday, not a holiday. Just a let's all sit down and talk kind of invite. No subject line, no details. Just the date and time. The last time they invited me to anything, it was for the family portrait I never got to be in. Leo read the message and said it sounded like a setup. He's not wrong. I told him I'd think about it. I already knew I was going. But this time, I wouldn't be walking in empty-handed. I showed up to the dinner by myself. Leo offered to come, but I told him not this time. He just looked at me and said, "Then own the room." I wore a plain black dress. No makeup. No statement earrings. Nothing curated. Just me. I parked down the block and walked in like it was any other Sunday dinner, even though I knew it wasn't. The moment I stepped through the door, everything slowed. My father was already at the bar cart, swirling scotch like it was part of his personality. My mother was folding cloth napkins with tight, stiff creases, even though dinner had clearly already been plated. Deandra was standing at the head of the table in a white blazer, hair pinned, nails done, like she was hosting a panel discussion. No one said hello. No one smiled. She gestured toward the chair across from hers, already pulled out. I sat without speaking. Deandra began. She called it a family healing session. Said the past few weeks had gotten out of hand, and she wanted to clear the air. Then she used words like optics and miscommunication and emotional calibration. Her voice was calm, polished, rehearsed. She said she was taking accountability for how things were received, which told me everything I needed to know. She didn't mean it. She was trying to fix a messaging issue, not her behavior. Then she introduced something new. She said she'd been working with a reputation strategist, someone she hired privately to protect the family brand. I asked her if she meant the family, or just her brand. She smiled but didn't answer. My mother handed out folders, actual manila folders with printed screenshots of Instagram posts, art blogs, and Tumblr pages where the mural had popped up. One had a red circle drawn around a comment that said, "Imagine being this person's sister. Yikes." Another page had graphs. It looked like they had charted the mural's spread like it was a crisis at a PR firm. My dad cleared his throat and read off a page like it was a script. He said if the mural continued to circulate, it could affect Deandra's professional standing, or that clients might make assumptions. That image matters in sales. Then he said the part they'd clearly practiced. You have to make a statement denouncing it. I looked around the table and tried to figure out if they were serious. They were, fully. I asked if they were really expecting me to take the fall for a mural I commissioned, about a mugshot she earned by driving drunk. My mom winced when I said the word drunk. My dad said I was being cruel. Deandra said it bordered on defamation and could be seen as artistic bullying. That was her new term. Then my mom slid an envelope across the table. It said draft legal action on the front. The letter inside was from a boutique law firm I'd never heard of. 2 pages. No letterhead, no signature. Just vague language about emotional harm and intentional public defamation. I slid the envelope back toward her without reading past the first paragraph. I told them to let me know when they were ready to actually talk, not threaten. Then I stood up. Stood up. No one tried to stop me. As I walked out, my phone buzzed. It was Izzy. She must have known the dinner was happening. Her text just said, "You survived the tribunal?" I replied, "They tried to put the mural on trial." When I got home, Leo was already in the garage, organizing his record collection. I told him what happened. He didn't even look surprised. He just asked if I wanted to paint over the mural or make it permanent. I asked what he meant by permanent. He said, "Let's host a gallery night. Not a public thing. Just friends. People we trust." The cousins who stayed quiet but nodded. The neighbors who waved when they saw the artist outside. The artist himself. Maybe even some of the younger students who'd been following the mural's progress online and had messaged to say it inspired their senior projects. The idea clicked instantly. I texted the muralist and asked if he could come by that weekend. I told him to sign the mural at the bottom, something clean, small, and bold. If this piece was going to exist, it deserved proper credit. He replied within the hour. He said he'd bring his silver detail pen and a bottle of wine. The next day, I bought string lights, folding chairs, and a set of easels. Not for more paintings, just to hold copies of the early sketches, the mock-ups I never shared, and the screenshots of the messages that started it all. If they wanted to call it a gallery, fine. I was ready to show the full picture. We spent all of Friday getting the garage ready. Leo brought home string lights and old area rugs from a thrift store down the block. We pushed everything against the walls, bikes, storage bins, leftover lumber, and vacuumed the floor twice. The mural stood at the back wall like a statement piece. We didn't cover it. We didn't frame it. We just lit it up and let it speak for itself. We set up a folding table near the entrance with drinks, snacks, and a stack of mismatched glasses. I printed some of the early sketch mock-ups and clipped them to easels. Next to them, we laid out a notebook with a handwritten note on the first page, "Leave a reflection if it moves. You." Doesn't matter how big or small. We didn't invite the whole world. Just 15 people. Some friends from college, 2 coworkers, a few cousins, including Izzy, and the muralist. No one from my immediate family. No second chances or olive branches. This wasn't a performance or a peace offering. It was a show of record. People started arriving around 7. Most brought something: wine, cookies, a candle. Some brought nothing but curiosity. No one asked questions when they walked in. They just looked at the mural. A few whispered. One of my coworkers leaned in close and muttered, "That's raw power." The muralist gave a short talk in the corner of the room. Nothing dramatic. He said the piece wasn't meant to shame anyone. It was a commentary on image control versus accidental honesty, how we don't get to pick the pictures that define us. He never once said Deandra's name. No one needed him to. Midway through the night, a woman I barely knew walked in, Nadia, someone I recognized from one of Deandra's tagged brunch photos. She glanced around the room, arms crossed, and asked if I thought making this mural public was the mature thing to do. I told her it was more honest than excluding someone from a family photo over their size. She didn't argue, just gave a tight nod and walked out quietly, always tagged in girls' trips and champagne brunches. She walked in holding a kombucha can and said she was just in the neighborhood. I was standing near the snack table when she approached. She looked around the room, then straight at me. She asked if I really thought this whole thing was mature. I asked if she thought telling someone to skip a family photo over their body size was mature. She didn't answer. She left 10 minutes later without signing the guest book. The reflections people left surprised me. Some were emotional, some poetic, a few were simple. One wrote, "Sometimes family portraits lie. This one doesn't." Another wrote, "The truth isn't cruel, it's just unflinching." One person drew a cartoon in the margin, someone holding a mirror with cracks running through it. The following Monday, a local art zine reached out again. They'd seen photos from the gallery night and asked to do a new feature, not about the scandal, but about the way personal truth was reshaping modern street art. I said yes, on one condition: the focus stayed on the mural and the meaning, not my family or Deandra's job. A few days after that, the same zine received an anonymous submission titled "What Happens When Family Turns on You for Likes." It was a melodramatic rebuttal filled with vague accusations and quotes that didn't come from anywhere real. They ran both pieces side by side. Their editor said readers could decide what story held more weight. The mural side won, at least in the comments. Someone wrote, "Being honest isn't being disloyal." Another said, "Silencing people isn't kindness. It's control." There was no need to argue. The story spoke for itself. That same morning, my mother called. Her voice was thick, like she'd been crying for hours. She said I was being cruel, that this wasn't how she raised me. I told her she also didn't raise Deandra to be kind, and yet here we were. She hung up. Later that night, my dad called. He never talks long, never talks first. But this time he did. He said maybe they overestimated Deandra's ability to control how people saw her. That maybe, just maybe, they handled things wrong. It wasn't an apology, but it was the first crack in the wall. Then the real fallout started. Deandra's name had been mentioned in a few discussion threads online, no full name, but enough people recognized her from company photos and tagged her employer. I had nothing to do with it. I hadn't posted a single thing publicly. But she blamed me anyway. I got 3 missed calls from her number that week. Then she blocked me. The muralist messaged me a photo someone had sent him. Just a small tattoo of one of the mural's line sketches on their forearm. It wasn't an exact replica, more like a tribute. The caption read, "Truth is a better mirror than pride." He'd posted it to his page with the caption, "Truth is a better mirror than pride." It was surreal. We hadn't expected the mural to outgrow the garage, but apparently it had. The following weekend, I stood in the garage again, looking at the mural alone. I cleared off the small desk I kept in the corner and leaned a new canvas against the wall. Blank. Unmarked. Waiting. I wasn't finished. Not yet. Deandra's spiral didn't stop at the zine feature. Word about the mural kept moving quietly through corporate spaces, too. Her company's PR team reached out to her after a client flagged the art piece on a niche industry blog. She tried to claim it was a malicious AI rendering that someone had faked to look like her. That defense didn't last 2 days. The internal damage control started immediately. She was pulled from 2 major pharmaceutical accounts without fanfare. No official statement, just her name off the campaign rosters and her email signature changed. The company released a vague update about adjusting representation roles due to scheduling conflicts, but people in her office noticed. One junior rep forwarded me a screenshot of Deandra's internal memo where she wrote about life learning moments and emerging stronger from adversity. Look, there was no mention of the DUI, not even a hint of regret. In our family group chat, no one said a word for almost a week. Then out of nowhere, my dad dropped a one-liner, "Can we all move on already?" That opened the door. Deandra replied with a block of text about ongoing attacks and how I was obsessed with damaging her image. I didn't respond. Izzy liked my silence by not responding either. A few hours later, I got a voice note from another cousin, Maya. We were never that close growing up, but she said she'd been following everything. In the recording, she told me Deandra used to call her jelly thighs back in high school and mocked her in front of classmates until she dropped out of gymnastics altogether. She'd never told anyone until now. She just wanted me to know the mural made her feel seen. After that, Leo and I decided to seal the mural properly. We built a frame, nothing fancy, just smooth light wood, and mounted it around the wall with secure brackets. Leo added soft uplighting from the floor, and the entire thing shifted from protest to exhibit. Friends who came by said it looked like it belonged in a modern art museum. A few people asked if I'd ever sell prints. One was a gallery intern. Another was a small press owner who said it would absolutely sell out. I said no, this was never for profit. It was about making something that couldn't be controlled, edited, or filtered. It had to stay singular. Meanwhile, Deandra tried a sudden image shift. She dyed her hair from blonde to a deep brunette, deleted most of her Instagram posts, and started a new profile branding herself as a minimalist lifestyle coach. Neutral toned clothing, herbal tea reels, and captions about starting over with grace. Comments were turned off. A week into her rebrand, someone I hadn't spoken to since college messaged me. She was an old family friend who used to work with my mom on charity boards. She told me, "You did what no one else could. You stopped the curated madness." She wasn't talking about just Deandra. Even my younger brother Marcus, who never chimed in about any of it, made a quiet move. He skipped Deandra's new era brunch, some launch party she hosted with her strategist in a hotel lounge. That silence spoke louder than anything he could have written in the chat. Not long after, my mom tried a new angle. She suggested a sister retreat weekend. A spa getaway, just the three of us. No phones, no drama, just rebuilding trust. I told her I was busy. She offered alternative dates. I didn't respond. That night, Leo and I sat in the garage with the lights dimmed low. He looked at the mural and said, "You didn't just stand up to Deandra. You created something that speaks for every version of you who stayed quiet before." He wasn't wrong. 2 mornings later, I found gray paint dripping down the mural. Someone had broken into the garage, not forced entry, just used the unlocked side door we'd forgotten to check, and tried to spray over it. They'd gotten as far as the chin before either giving up or getting spooked. The paint didn't even stick properly. It looked like someone tried to silence a scream halfway through. I sent a photo to the muralist. He came by the same day. He didn't just fix it, he expanded it. Behind Deandra's face, he added a new layer, a shattered mirror in faint silver and steel blue hues. The cracks framed her expression, slicing through the background like a spiderweb. He painted a new title underneath in bold black strokes. "This is what image control looks like." We didn't announce it. No relaunch, no second gallery night. But within a week, it had already made its way to 3 new blogs and a college campus magazine. No hashtags, no tags, just a wall, a face, a truth that refused to disappear. About a month after the mural was vandalized and restored, a thick envelope showed up in my mailbox. No return address, just my name printed in raised silver lettering. Inside was a glossy invitation that looked more like a wedding announcement than a casual gathering. It read, "You are cordially invited to Deandra's personal growth networking mixer." Below that, in clean serif font, a gathering on image, renewal, and influence. I flipped it over. At the bottom was a list of highlighted voices for the evening. My name was there, not as a guest, but as a panel speaker. I dropped the envelope and burst out laughing. Leo came out of the kitchen holding a mug and just stared at me. I held the card up and pointed. He squinted, then said, "Wait, she listed you as a speaker?" I nodded. "Are you actually considering going?" I didn't answer right away. I wasn't going to speak, but I was going. I needed to see what version of the story she was selling now, and who was buying into it. The event was held at a rooftop gallery downtown. Valet parking, a red carpet banner with her new logo, and a photographer taking staged candid shots at the entrance. The room was filled with polished people holding name tags, influencer coaches, brand managers, wellness bloggers, art, and a few people I vaguely recognized from her pharmaceutical world. The walls had blown up quotes in serif fonts. Stuff like "Pain is a portal and control your story before someone else does." One corner of the room had a screen looping a slideshow labeled "Before and After, My Journey." And right in the middle of it, blurred slightly but unmistakable, was the mural. My mural. Cropped, pixelated, captioned. The moment that sparked my evolution. I stood there long enough that someone offered me wine. I took it. The presentation began 15 minutes later. Deandra took the stage in a silky neutral jumpsuit and a lapel mic. She spoke confidently about image, growth, and turning moments of perceived betrayal into reflections of strength. Then she said the mural was an artistic confrontation with my past mistakes, commissioned by a loving sister who wanted better for me. That was it. She had folded the entire thing into her origin story. When the QA began, I raised my hand. A host walked over and handed me a mic. I stood up and said, "Hi, I'm the sister. I actually commissioned that mural because you told me I was too fat to be in a family photo." The room went silent. No background music, no coughs, just a sharp inhale or two. Deandra's smile twitched. She opened her mouth, but I kept going. "I didn't paint that because I loved you. I painted it because no one else in our family was willing to hold you accountable. I never gave you permission to use my work in your PR campaign." There were people staring now, some wide-eyed, some awkwardly sipping their drinks. Deandra tried to respond. She said something about art being subjective and how reframing pain is part of the healing journey. I replied, "Healing starts with honesty, not branding." Then I handed the mic back to the host and sat down. The event ended earlier than scheduled. I left without speaking to anyone else, but a few people nodded at me as I passed by, small, quick gestures. One woman even touched her chest and mouthed "thank you." No applause. Just quiet acknowledgement, which honestly said more. 2 weeks later, I went into the garage alone and painted over the mural myself. Not because I regretted it, but because the message had already done its job. I covered it with a deep slate gray, smoothed the surface, and left one frame in the center. Inside it, I placed a photo of the mural in its prime and a small plaque below that read, "Truth doesn't need to be permanent, just seen." After that, I made it official. I went no contact with Deandra. No messages, no calls, no middleman relatives. I put hard boundaries in place with my parents too. They didn't like it, but they didn't fight it. Izzy still calls me every Thursday. We do movie nights or send each other weird snacks to try. 2 of my cousins from the gallery night started inviting me to their birthdays. One even asked me to design her wedding invitations. This year, instead of posing for a fake perfect family portrait, I started my own tradition. Candid photos. Some blurry, some with bad lighting, all of them real. Me laughing in the kitchen. Me on the floor playing with my cat. Me hugging friends who never once made me feel like I had to shrink to be loved. I've already filled one wall with frames, and not a single one leaves me out.